Amy and I are the co-founders and co-directors of Babies Project. We have a space in New York. Um, Babies Project is actually a DBA name. Our official incorporated name is Developmental Movement Project. So while we work a lot with babies, but we also work with adults, and we see developmental movement as something that applies to everyone at every stage. You want to go from there, Amy?
Sure. Yeah. So we talked in the last breakout about how we work maybe with adults more, and we thought this time could be open to people's questions about how we apply this with working with infants. So working with infants ends up being about working with adults. And I think that part of what we said earlier is, or for me, what was key in what we said earlier was that our point is not to automatically know what a baby needs. Our point is not to teach them or to lead them to an experience, but to be their environment, to be with them. And then this plays out in all kinds of ways, with caregivers, with babies, with adults. We talk about babies of all ages. So, and Sarah and I talked a lot about it. A lot of it might unfold from your specific questions. So if you guys have questions, I think we can go from there with what your interest is.
Yeah, let's do that. So Carrie, Sarah, did you have another point?
I just wanted to say, if anyone missed it and they're interested, if you go to our website, babiesproject.org, and we've written a lot about our principles and our approach, and a lot of what we shared in the opening came out of that kind of crystallizing those ideas.
And we'll also have video of their breakout that they did earlier that I thought did a really nice job of teeing it up and also doing a broader, human relating. Everyone saw the parallels, which was great, to kind of the corporate environment. Okay, so right away, Carrie. So Carrie, I'm going to unmute you, and you'll just talk like you're calling in to an infomercial. That's kind of how I imagine this. So I'm going to unmute you, and then you can ask your question of Amy and Sarah. Okay, so you're unmuted, Carrie. But you're still, let me unmute you here, yeah. So if you're muted on your, I've just opened it for you, but if you're still muted on your end, there you go. Ask away, Carrie.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, where are you calling in from?
Calling from Charlottesville, Virginia.
Are you and your loved ones healthy and well?
Well, I am taking care of a foster dog, and I am all by myself. And I am a caregiver for 3 family members that are in treatment facilities. So it's a strange scenario. My mom is in assisted living with dementia, and then I've got 2 other family members in recovery work. And so my role has changed radically, and just, have gotten so much from Amy and Sarah in getting to be at the Babies Project in New York. And so this is more my heart work as well. But my practical life is, caring for people that are isolated and have been very reliant on some of my practices of touch and of presence that may not be available where they are. So I don't know if that was a question, but hello.
Hi. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Do you have a question for us or something you want us to talk more about?
I think it's I have a lot of experience in how to be with people face to face, and I am questioning my own ability to have that be as effective virtually. That's, I think, the question. So anything that's going to help me help the people I care about through these technologies, I guess, is maybe the thing. I feel like I'm able to do my practices. I just am having to empower other people to begin theirs.
Well, I think I heard a speaker earlier talk about well, and Sarah said it, but someone else, about using words more. And I think that also, to me, what being online makes me do explicitly is not assume I know, which came up before as a thought, but I think that to keep asking people what their experience is, and then keep being willing and practice. Like, I think of all the different things I've studied and using them to be able to entertain more possible ways to be in the world. Kind of like, how can I comprehend someone's experience when they're not having my experience? And to me, that's the practice now, because I can't go on what comes from presence. I can't go on nonverbal cues, really. So I think it's a practice of making things more explicit. However we do, by drawing pictures, or, I mean, I heard a ton of great ideas earlier about how to help people participate.
And I think this came up before. You talked something about it, Amy. I'm also wondering about, on the other end, like, what is helpful to the people in terms of contact. I just heard from my partner, whose mother is in an assisted living facility far away, that they're doing iPads for connection. So is it seeing a human face, a familiar human face makes a difference? Is it having longer conversations on the phone, including maybe long pauses? I don't know. It's new territory, and something we have to work out together, each of us, with our people we're trying to help.
Mm-hmm. Can't hear you, Lucy.
Can't hear you, Lucy.
Sorry about that. I unmuted Carrie and then didn't unmute myself. Carrie, thank you for that question. I'm going to move to a different one because it looks like someone else also chimed in similarly. Patty Joe says, Amy and Sarah, in support of Carrie, how can you best be present in a coaching or caregiver role with technology in the middle, especially with elders who may be afraid of the technology? And I'd be curious too with babies as well. Like, what is your perspective on that? How do you caregive with technology in the middle now?
I feel like it's the same. I mean, technology makes a difference, but I think it also, or it does still depend on the baby, on the elder. And I think, I mean, I don't know. We're not experts in doing this over technology, right? So to me, these questions are like, we took our questions and applied them to babies, and now we're being asked to apply them in this other way. And to me, what I come back to is, like, if elders are afraid, then their fear is real, you know. And I think that I hear people saying, you know, trying to convince people there's nothing to be afraid of, and I don't think it matters if there's something to be afraid of or not. The fact is, we're afraid. So, and then what is it that someone's afraid of? What is it they're afraid of? Because we can't just tell them not to be afraid. To me, it's like, well, then can you tell me what you're afraid of? Are you afraid you're going to break it? Are you afraid you're going to electrocute yourself? Are you afraid you're going to lose your identity? Like, what is it that we're afraid of? Because until we can, like, unpack it back to those safety, comfort, bonding questions, then how do we get around to being curious? And to me, it goes back to that.
So Gregory said, and then I have a question for you both. Gregory said, Amy, would you say again your statement that started with, "Our point is not to know or teach"? That quote, one of many wise quotes.
I think that I was saying our point and our job as caregivers and as teachers, as educators, is not to know what someone else needs, not to teach someone else something, but to be with them in their experience, to be a witness, to be in relationship. I said that. I also said something about that we could be experts in our subject matter, but it doesn't mean we're experts in the other person's experience. So I think we need to be able to show up as an expert in what we know, but also not know what's going on for someone else until we figure out how to be in dialogue with them.
I'd love for the group, because this group came in, specifically for the, he says, wow, I love what you're saying. This group, because it is the caregiving group, I would love for everyone to understand what baby ball is, because that for me as a new parent was game changing. It seems like some of you probably do have babies at home that this is very likely applicable for. Yeah. Do we even, I wonder if one of you has. Hi,
Yes,
Nikki.
hold on, right there. I'm coming.
Hi.
So Nikki will join us, and Nikki will start teaching in 15 minutes after we. Thank you, Nikki. I'm going to shut your video off and mute you until we're ready.
Okay. Yep. Perfect.
Thank you. So yeah, do we have? Oh, perfect. Do we have a little doll? Perfect.
We do.
So I think
I'm
if
gonna try
any
to-
of you have babies at home, I might even suggest that they grab their babies and try this out. If you can, because this is incredible what Sarah's about to demonstrate. So I'll put myself on mute and you can walk people through what this is and what it does. And
Great. So to start, one of the ways we look at how we can support a baby is this frame of cycling between out and in. So there's a big cycle of day and night. We generally sleep at night, we're awake during the day. And then within that, for a baby, for example, there might be these nap times, sleep and wake. But even within the wake times, there's a cycling of turning our attention outward, being open to stimulation, to relationship, to activity, to movement, and then need to cycle back in to turn away and disengage and go more inward. And while our focus is movement development, what we have found is that if we put a lot of focus on support for going in, then the babies can lead when they go back out. So one of the biggest tools that we teach in supporting a baby to go in is what we call baby ball. And it includes, here's a baby out. And the extreme of out is a big startle or a big back bend. So we're bringing a baby into spinal flexion. So I'm supporting the head, not to push it down here, but to be supported and to be a little bit in flexion. The arms are in front. And the legs are gathered in such a way that the lower part of the spine is also in flexion. So, and I'm kind of providing this three-dimensional touch and making a kind of nest or a container, a responsive dynamic container for the baby to settle into. It can look a lot of different ways. So it could be here, it could be more in sideline. It might be, of course, on the other side, practice both sides because your patterns are affecting your baby's habits and patterns. A baby who's really out might show it by arching their back, stiffening their legs. And what we might do there is let them go out some and then gather them back in. And if they're really out, there might be a number of these cyclings of out and in before the baby settles. So this baby ball, in a way, is also a metaphor for, can we be a surrounding support while the baby is in their own process, which might also involve crying to express some discomfort or some, I just need to tell you about what happened. And we don't even need to know what it is that happened. We might not understand why they're crying, but circling back to something we talked about earlier, their experience is real. And we think that it's a huge thing we're doing by supporting them while they're in their process.
And when do you do that pose? When do you use baby ball? Like how frequently, what occasion would trigger you doing that with the baby?
Well, we'd love for it to be the baseline and the way that they're most familiar with being held. So and the idea of it, as Sarah said, is that if it becomes home base for them to be oriented to themselves, from which they can look out at the world, but they continue to have their supported sense of self kind of facilitated by the physical position they're in, then they can choose to come out, and we can keep offering them baby ball. And then we do it, I mean, we suggest to people that they do it then like at bedtime, when a baby might be tired but resisting sleeping, or kind of stimulated, like to offer them baby ball, and then toddlers, and then teenagers and kids. And now we've been doing the work long enough that we know some people with babies that are now children that came to us, and they still use baby ball. And then we also teach baby ball for adults. So like, what is it for yourself to settle in and be with yourself?
Yeah, and I think your point, Sarah, that you kind of showed a baby arcing up and then coming back in and arcing up, I think that's so applicable for us, right? We're not going to be great at settling in and getting to that place right away. It actually takes some settling back in and gathering yourself in that way. So I just love how you showed us that. Okay, great. So Jane, I'm going to unmute you, and we can hear a little bit about, and you're going to have to unmute yourself as well, but we'll hear a little bit about what's going on for you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jane, where are you calling in from?
I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Hi, are you and your loved ones healthy and well?
So far, yes, thank you.
Okay, good to hear that. Okay, Amy and Sarah.
Hi, so I have a son who's about to turn 2, and his daycare is closed, and I'm trying to get my work done at home with him. And I'm struggling with how to help him feel connected with me, and that I'm still able to play with him and give him my attention, but also have some pockets of time where he's able to play independently and not needing me constantly during the workday. Do you have tips for balancing that?
Well, I want to say, first of all, we are not parents. So we have some ideas, but we're not there 24/7. So I want to put that caveat out there. A couple of things that come to mind. One is our focus is a lot on babies, but we also work with toddlers. We have a toddler session every week, and we get some of these questions. How can we help our toddler play more independently? And they always want to be with me. And one of the questions is, well, it's natural for them to want to be with you. And so maybe a question is, how can you meet their need to be with you and to be in relationship, and also cultivate their curiosity of what will engage them in independent play, which might also be some combination of, can you be somehow with them while they're doing their thing and getting absorbed?
Right.
I think also one of the things we do in our toddlers session is, when the toddlers come in with the caregivers, sometimes the caregiver, which is the mom or the nanny or the grandparent, like we use caregiver for all of those people. Sometimes the caregiver says, go play. And we ask them to please let the child stay with them for as long as they want to stay with them, and then go out on their own time when they get curious. And, it's anecdotal, but from many years of working with infants and toddlers, what I feel like I've seen is that the toddlers who get front-loaded with time to make their own choice end up being more willing to go play by themselves. So I wonder if, for everybody who's dealing with kids at home, particularly toddlers, if they kind of like front-load their day with attention and with time together, and let the toddler or the child, or probably anybody, move away in their own time rather than encouraging them to go. I wonder if it would play out with the toddler being able to go away for more time themselves, because they know whether they know consciously or kind of unconsciously, but they've made the choice to go away, and then they might have the feeling that they can come back whenever they want. And that if that's established, I think we all might be more comfortable with being apart, because we know there's a way to get back.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Jane.
wonder also if the front loading is also really at the beginning of this transition also, that it's not just each day, but to recognize that transitions are hard for toddlers, and this is a huge transition for everyone. And whether they really understand what's happening or not, they're feeling it and responding to it.
Totally.
And it's coming out, however it's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Thank you.
brilliant at that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Amy. And
Thank
thank you, Jane. We have time for probably one or two other questions. Gregory, Gregory, can I put you on? Can I put you on voice? It's just I'm finding it so much more rewarding. What about you, Amy and Sarah, to hear the voice from the? Okay,
Yeah.
Gregory, if that's cool, can I allow you to talk? I'm just waiting to hear back because I don't want to do that. I'm not going to make that assumption. Okay, so I'm not hearing back, so I'm just going to go ahead and read your question, Gregory, which is, how do you explain the value of supporting the baby, the client, the company in their process, especially when they are looking for answers about what to do? So that's interesting. How do you explain the value of what you all provide? I love that, because I was a sort of in a way, I was a self-selected participant when I came to Babies Project, but when you meet, how do you explain it? How do you explain the value of what you're doing?
You want to take that? Well, it's not always a short game.
Yeah.
To appreciating the value. And I think one of the reasons that we focus so much on explaining our philosophy and our principles is because if someone's not at least curious on their way to being on board, then it might not make sense.
Yeah, because we're really trying to get people engaged in figuring out like how our principles apply in their world. So when people are coming to us, if they've never been, we send them a list of principles, we send them guidelines, we send them a ton of stuff. And when they come in, we say, did you read them? Do you have questions? Because if they don't agree with the basic ideas of curiosity rather than teaching in some way, or if they don't, if they're not willing to entertain the question, then we don't really have anything to offer. And I think it's something about recognizing the limits of what we do. If we're going to be participatory in this way, and if we're not going to slip into saying you have to do it this way or you're going to mess up your baby, which we're not going to do, because we've seen a lot of babies come through who don't do it at all like we think it could happen, and they're brilliant, they're beautiful. And so if they're not on board, then they, great, they'll figure it out. They will figure it out.
Thank you for that. So we're gonna now switch over to Nikki. Amy, Sarah, truly thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you all for participating. I thought these questions were great. Amy and Sarah's materials will be sent out in our output. So if you wanted to go further on Babies Project, and it's babiesproject.org, right?
Yeah.
So yes, definitely. I see some questions about that. Please check it out. They have an amazing amount of literature and other resources and of course, when they reopen the space in New York, and you are in the New York area, definitely try to check it out. Bring your babies, because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Or come observe.
Yes.
We also invite observers.
Right, of course. You don't have to have a baby to participate. You can observe it, and it's clearly incredibly broadly applicable, which we really played at today. So thank you both. And now, Nikki, I'm going to unmute you and turn on your video. Amy and Sarah, if you want to hop off, or I can.
Yeah. And then we'll come back. Yeah. Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.